Where we used to have generations that were about 20 years long, now we're looking at generations that are maybe only 10 years long, and it's totally because of technology. So we start by talking about the older generation, the baby boomers, and then we move to the Gen Xers, and then we move to what I call the net generation, born in the 1980s. Then we move on to the I generation, with a little I in front of the word generation, born in the 1990s. And now we're already starting to talk about what we call Generation C, the more connected generation of kids actually born in the new millennium. Well, you know, education is facing an interesting challenge these days because the educators are primarily baby boomers and Gen Xers who were not raised with technology, but now you're looking at who they're teaching, and they're all technologically sophisticated and have been raised with these devices from day one. So the teachers are having to change their style of teaching. A lot of people are going to what they call a flipped classroom, where you give the students assignments to go home, look on the internet, watch these videos, read this material, look at this video play, and then come back and in the classroom have the students discuss it. The reason they're doing that is because the kids would much rather watch a video at home. They'd much rather be able to task switch while they're studying. Other teachers are finding that they're having to allow the students to have their cell phones in the class, to be able to text the teacher, to be able to look up things on the internet. They're really having to switch their mode of teaching. I've been trying to introduce a strategy in schools called a tech break. And it's a very simple process, but what it does is it gets at the fact that students are constantly being distracted in their world. They're being distracted from their cell phones and the visual image of a text coming in, the sound of a text coming in. They're also being distracted from inside their head. They have an internal distraction that says, gee, I haven't been able to look at my cell phone for 10 minutes. I wonder who texted me. Gee, I haven't been able to check Facebook. I wonder if my friend posted a response to my status update. And so what I'm doing in classrooms is having the teachers do what I call a tech break. Every student gets to bring their cell phone in. They get to look at their cell phone, text away, check Facebook, put it face upside down on the table. Now we have a lesson for 15 minutes. If you people in the class pay attention for 15 minutes, then everybody gets a tech break. And the teacher yells up, 15 minutes tech break. Everybody pulls their phone, text, put it back down, focus again. What that does is gets rid of that internal distraction. They no longer have to say, gee, I wonder who texted me. They know 15 minutes I'll be able to check it.
I think in education, technology is going to change the way that we see and think of school. Right now, we think of school as four walls and students lined up and maybe an iPad in their hand. I think in the future, education is going to have no walls. I hope they will still have professional educators as teachers, but I think that it's going to be a different environment with hopefully no boundaries for any student or teacher.
If you ask me about the future and you ask me what our world is going to be like 10 years down the road, I'll have to tell you that I don't know, first of all. But my guess is that just like everything else that we've seen in our world, it's kind of like a pendulum. And right now our pendulum is swung way this way. We are communicating heavily electronically. We are on Facebook. 1 out of every 4 minutes on the internet is spent on Facebook. We are texting. Teenage girls send 5,000 texts a month. So we are really all the way this way. I think what we're going to start to see as the years pass is that we are going to start to electronically communicate less, fall back more to the center. We're still going to be communicating, but we're going to be a little bit more judicious about it. It's not going to be all-consuming, and we're going to start learning how to pick and choose what we want to do. I think right now we're almost being driven by the technology. Something new comes out, we've got to try it. We've got to do it. We've got to use it. I think after a few more years, I'd say 5+ years, we're going to find that we're a little less enchanted with all new technologies, and we're going to start to pick and choose the ones that fit into our world the best at that moment.
I think there's a lot of conversation out there, especially people, philanthropists, business leaders that are looking at how to use technology in schools. I think that some people think that you could put a student in front of a computer, personalize their education in front of a computer, and that would be enough. And I just disagree with that. I think that live teachers are probably the only people in front of classrooms that can answer or that can ask the second question. I think that computers can ask the first question, but it's that follow-up question that needs that human touch, that sense of empathy and understanding. And so I don't know if computers can go too far. I just think that learning can only go so far with computers. Well, I think the one thing that we aren't going to be able to control is the speed and complexity of things. And so we need to develop a system that works for us to not get caught in the trap of being left behind. I think that certainly there will always be people that know more than I do and you do about technology, but ultimately it's important that we work around the big general concepts and not think, well, if I don't learn this one specific thing, I'm not going to be able to move forward. We have to kind of dabble in everything so that when something goes, we can dig a little deeper into that.
I think that the point where we go too far is when we buy technology because we're buying technology. I think that there needs to be a clear focus and a clear mission, and which includes an understanding of why we're buying technology and how the technology is going to be used to increase student achievement, student productivity, and student engagement. So yes, I think if we just continue to buy technology for technology's sake, then we're just spending money and we don't really know for what or why. Technology is definitely an advantage if used in the appropriate manner.
Well, I think it's an opportunity to close some gaps. For a long time, we've talked about the achievement gap between white students and black students, or white students, Hispanic students. Technology provides an opportunity to close both an opportunity gap and an experience gap and really put kids on a path toward success in college and beyond. And so I'm really excited to see how technology will help to close those gaps. We have some very large world global problems that are sitting there simmering, and I think that innovation, and specifically innovation around technology, might be our only chance to solve some of these big global problems. The harm might come with distractibility and solitude and kind of like inner peace. Sometimes I think the world gets moving too quickly. Technology starts to consume every minute. We forget to smell the roses, step back, take a moment to ourselves, reflect on what we've learned. But overall, I think it's much more of a benefit.
Well, technology can be a bit of a double-edged sword. Sometimes you need it, for research, or to find textbooks online, or even write a paper. But at the same time, it can also be a very big distraction in that there's loads of websites, which do serve their own purpose, that have stuff like games and music and video and stuff that isn't exactly always beneficial. And those can be a bit of a distraction. For example, once when I had to write a paper, I kind of go in between actually writing it, sitting there and brainstorming my next paragraph or so, and then going online and listening to music on YouTube. So it was a bit of a distraction, but it also was necessary. Using the computer was necessary for getting the work done.
And so I realized that this is the way we're going to have to adapt our world.